aita for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after discovering she's been lying about everything. I, 28F, am absolutely devastated and don't know if I'm being reasonable or if I'm the asshole here. This is going to be long, but please bear with me because there are so many layers to this mess. My sister Emma, 26F, and I have always been close. We're only 2 years apart, and growing up, we did everything together. When she started dating her fiancé Jake, 29M, 3 years ago, I was thrilled for her. Jake seemed like a great guy, charming, successful, and he clearly adored Emma. They got engaged last Christmas and set their wedding date for this October. Here's where it gets complicated. About 6 months ago, Emma asked me to be her maid of honor, which I was honored to accept. She also asked me to help with wedding planning since she was so overwhelmed with work. I happily agreed because I love event planning and want to make her day perfect. Emma works as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company, or at least that's what I thought. She's always been a bit secretive about her job, but I figured some people just don't like talking about work. Jake works in finance and makes good money, which explained how they could afford their expensive apartment and lavish wedding plans. The first red flag came when I was helping Emma look for a wedding dress. We went to several high-end boutiques, and she kept insisting on trying on dresses that were $5,000 plus. When I gently suggested looking at some beautiful options in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, she got snippy and said money wasn't an issue. I thought maybe Jake was contributing more to the wedding fund, so I let it go. Then came the venue situation. Emma booked this gorgeous historic mansion that costs $15,000 just for the venue rental, not including catering, flowers, or anything else. When I asked how they were managing such expensive choices, she got defensive and said they had savings and family help. Our parents are middle class and definitely couldn't contribute that kind of money. But again, I assumed Jake's family was wealthy. The second major red flag was when Emma asked me to handle communications with all the vendors because she was too busy at work. I thought it was weird, but I wanted to help. That's when I started noticing inconsistencies. When vendors called during business hours, Emma was always available to answer immediately. When I mentioned this seemed odd for someone with a demanding job, she claimed she had a flexible schedule. Things got really strange when I was coordinating with the caterer and needed to discuss dietary restrictions. Emma had told me Jake was severely allergic to shellfish, but when I mentioned this to Jake directly at family dinner, he looked confused and said he had no food allergies. Emma quickly jumped in and said she misspoke and meant that she didn't like shellfish. But I distinctly remembered her being very specific about it being Jake's allergy. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. I was at Emma's apartment dropping off some wedding favors when Jake came home early from work. He looked exhausted and stressed, which was unusual for him. When Emma went to the bathroom, he confided in me that he was worried about money. He said the wedding costs were spiraling out of control, and he didn't understand how Emma kept adding expensive elements when they'd agreed on a budget. I was confused because Emma had been telling me that money was an issue. When I gently probed, Jake revealed that Emma had told him I was contributing $20,000 to the wedding as a gift, which was why she felt comfortable with the higher expenses. I was shocked because I had never offered or been asked to contribute that amount of money. In fact, I'm a teacher and definitely don't have $20,000 sitting around. That evening, I confronted Emma about the conversation with Jake. She initially tried to deny it, then claimed it was a misunderstanding. When I pressed her for the truth, she broke down crying and admitted that she had been lying about several things. Here's where it gets really messy. Emma hasn't had a job in over a year. She was laid off and has been too embarrassed to tell anyone, including Jake. She's been pretending to go to work every day, spending time at coffee shops and the library instead. She's been funding the wedding preparations by taking cash advances on multiple credit cards that Jake doesn't know about. She's racked up over $40,000 in debt. She told Jake that I was contributing $20,000, told our parents that Jake's family was paying for most of the wedding, and told Jake's parents that our family was covering the major expenses. Everyone thought someone else was handling the costs. The shellfish thing was part of a larger pattern of lies. She's been making up random facts about people to make conversations more interesting, including telling me that Jake was considering a career change. He wasn't. And telling Jake that I was thinking about moving across the country. I'm not. I was absolutely stunned. I asked her why she would create such an elaborate web of lies, and she said she felt pressure to have a perfect wedding and was scared that if people knew the truth about her job situation, they'd think less of her or would try to convince her to postpone the wedding. I told her she needed to come clean to Jake immediately, but she begged me not to tell him and promised she would figure it out after the wedding. She had some delusional plan about getting a job right after the honeymoon and slowly paying off the debt without Jake ever knowing. I gave her 48 hours to tell Jake the truth herself, or I would. She didn't do it. So I told Jake everything. I felt terrible about going behind Emma's back, but I couldn't let him unknowingly enter a marriage built on financial lies and deception. Plus, he deserved to know that he was about to be legally responsible for $40,000 plus in secret debt. Jake was devastated. He confronted Emma, and apparently, the fight was explosive. Emma admitted to everything, but blamed me for ruining her life by not keeping her secret. Jake didn't break up with her, but he did insist on postponing the wedding indefinitely until they could work through the lies and the financial mess. This is where I might be the asshole. Emma has been calling and texting me nonstop, begging me to help salvage the situation. She wants me to tell Jake that I pressured her into the expensive wedding choices and that the financial problems are partially my fault. She's also asking me to actually contribute the $20,000 she claimed I was giving, saying I owe it to her now since I destroyed her original plan. I refused both requests. I told her that I love her, but I can't enable her lies anymore, and I definitely can't take on debt or blame for choices she made. I said I'd be happy to help her find a therapist or a financial counselor, but I wouldn't participate in more deception. Emma then uninvited me from the wedding, whenever it might happen, and told me I was dead to her. She's been telling people that I sabotaged her relationship because I was jealous of her happiness. Some family members are buying into this narrative and have been pressuring me to apologize and fix things. Our parents are divided. Mom thinks I should have minded my own business and that sisters stick together no matter what. Dad agrees that Emma needed to face the consequences of her actions, but thinks I should have given her more time to come clean on her own. Jake's been texting me occasionally to thank me for telling him the truth, but he's also asked me to give Emma space to work on herself. He says they're in couples counseling and trying to rebuild trust, but it's going to be a long process. Meanwhile, Emma has had to move back in with our parents because she can't afford her rent without Jake's contribution to their shared expenses. She's finally job hunting, but is struggling because she has to explain the gap in her employment. The wedding venue and vendors are demanding payment, and there's talk of potential legal action if the contracts aren't honored or properly canceled. I keep going back and forth on whether I did the right thing. On one hand, Jake deserved to know the truth about what he was getting into. The financial deception alone could have destroyed their marriage down the line, and he had a right to make an informed decision about his future. On the other hand, Emma is my sister, and she was clearly struggling with shame and anxiety about her situation. Maybe if I'd been more supportive and less judgmental, I could have helped her find a better way to handle things. Maybe I should have given her more time or helped her figure out how to tell Jake gently. I'm also wondering if I should have tried harder to understand why she felt so much pressure to have an expensive wedding. Society does put a lot of expectations on women to have a perfect wedding day, and maybe I didn't fully appreciate how much she was struggling with that pressure. The thing that really gets me is that Emma and Jake were genuinely happy together before all this came out. They had a strong relationship, and I think they could have worked through her job loss and financial problems if she had been honest from the start. By trying to protect their relationship through lies, she actually put it in much more danger. I'm also worried about the long-term consequences for our family. Emma and I have never gone this long without speaking, and I miss her terribly. I'm scared that even if she eventually forgives me, our relationship will never be the same. I'm also concerned about how this is affecting our parents, who are caught in the middle of our conflict. Some of my friends think I'm completely in the right, and that Emma brought this on herself. Others think I should have stayed out of it and let Emma handle her own relationship problems. A few have suggested that I should offer to help with the financial mess, even if I wasn't originally planning to contribute to the wedding. I've been losing sleep over this situation. I keep replaying conversations and wondering if I could have handled things differently. I love my sister and want her to be happy, but I also couldn't stand by and watch her destroy her relationship and her fiancé's financial future with lies. The worst part is that I was genuinely excited about Emma's wedding. I had been looking forward to celebrating her happiness and helping her start this new chapter of her life. Now the whole thing has turned into a nightmare, and I don't know if our family will ever recover from the fallout. I need to know, am I the asshole for telling Jake the truth about Emma's lies and refusing to help cover for her anymore? Should I have handled this situation differently? And is there anything I can do now to help repair the damage to my relationship with my sister? Update. I showed this post to my therapist. Yes, I started seeing someone to help process all this drama, and she helped me realize that I might have some codependent tendencies when it comes to Emma. Looking back, I can see that I've been enabling some of her behavior for years by not challenging her when things didn't add up. Maybe this situation, as painful as it is, was necessary for both of us to grow. Aita for exposing my stepmother's lies about my late father's will and potentially destroying my half-siblings' futures. I, 32M, am posting this because I genuinely don't know if I'm a vindictive asshole or if I did the right thing. This situation has torn my family apart, and I'm losing sleep over it. Background: my parents divorced when I was 12. My mom struggled financially as a single parent, working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. My dad remarried quickly to Linda, now 48F, and they had 2 kids together. My half-siblings Marcus, 16M, and Sophia, 14F. I live with my mom, but visited my dad every other weekend. My relationship with Linda was always tense. She made it clear that I was an outsider in her family. She'd make snide comments about my mom's financial situation and would often forget to include me in family photos or activities. My dad, wanting to keep the peace, rarely stood up for me. It hurt, but I learned to cope. Growing up, I was very close to my paternal grandfather, George. He was disappointed in how my dad handled the divorce and remarriage situation. Grandpa George always made sure to treat me equally and would often slip me money for school supplies or clothes when my mom was struggling. He'd say things like, "You're still my grandson, no matter what, and don't let anyone make you feel less than." My dad did well for himself. He's a successful contractor and invested in real estate. Linda never worked, preferring to be a stay-at-home mom, which was fine, but she lived very extravagantly. Designer clothes, expensive cars, luxury vacations. Meanwhile, my mom and I were clipping coupons and shopping at thrift stores. When I turned 18, I got a partial scholarship to college, but still needed loans. I asked my dad for help, and Linda immediately shut it down, saying they needed to save for Marcus and Sophia's futures. My dad apologetically agreed with her. I ended up working multiple jobs through college and graduated with significant debt. Here's where it gets complicated. My dad died suddenly of a heart attack 8 months ago. I was devastated. Despite our complicated relationship, I loved him. At the funeral, Linda was playing the grieving widow perfectly, but I noticed she seemed almost relieved. It was subtle, but something felt off. A week after the funeral, Linda called a family meeting to discuss the will. She sat us all down, me, Marcus, Sophia, and my mom, who came for moral support, and announced that my dad had left everything to her and the younger kids. According to Linda, the will stated that I would receive a small token amount of $5,000, but the house, business, and all investments, worth approximately $2.8 million, would go to Linda and be held in trust for Marcus and Sophia. I was hurt, but not entirely surprised. Linda had always made it clear where I stood in the family hierarchy. The $5,000 felt like a slap in the face, but I figure my dad probably thought I was doing fine on my own since I graduated college and had a decent job in IT. Here's the first twist. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my grandfather, George. At 84, he's still sharp as a tack. He told me something that changed everything. Apparently, my dad had visited him just 3 months before he died and specifically mentioned updating his will to ensure I was properly taken care of. My dad had expressed regret about not helping me through college and wanted to make sure I received a fair inheritance. This didn't match what Linda had told us at all. I decided to contact the lawyer who supposedly handled my dad's will. Here's where it gets interesting. The lawyer Linda mentioned doesn't exist. The address she gave leads to a Starbucks. I hire my own attorney to investigate. What we discovered was explosive. My dad's actual will, filed properly with the court, left his estate to be divided equally between Linda, 50%, and me, 50%, with a provision that if anything happened to Linda, Marcus and Sophia would inherit her portion when they turned 25. Linda had created a fake will and had been planning to illegally claim the entire estate. She'd been banking on me not challenging it, especially since I'd always been the outsider. The real lawyer confirmed that my dad had indeed updated his will 3 months before his death, specifically to ensure I received a substantial inheritance. But wait, there's more. During the investigation, we discovered that Linda had been having an affair for the past 2 years with my dad's business partner, Rick, 51M. They had been planning to merge the business assets after my dad's death and start a new life together. My dad apparently had no idea. The most shocking part, Linda had been slowly poisoning my dad with small doses of antifreeze in his coffee over several months. The heart attack wasn't natural, it was murder. The medical examiner had originally missed it because the symptoms mimic heart disease, but when my lawyer requested a more thorough investigation, they found traces of ethylene glycol in his system. I was faced with an impossible decision. I could expose Linda for the murderer and fraud she is, but doing so would destroy Marcus and Sophia's lives. They're just kids, and they adore their mother. They'd lose their home, their financial security, and their mother would go to prison. They'd probably end up in foster care, since there's no other family on Linda's side. I wrestled with this decision for weeks. These kids are my half-siblings, and despite Linda's treatment of me, they've always been sweet and loving. Marcus is a junior in high school, with dreams of becoming a doctor. Sophia is an artist who's incredibly talented. They're good kids who don't deserve to pay for their mother's crimes. But I also couldn't let my father's murder go unpunished. And the injustice of Linda trying to steal my inheritance while literally killing my dad was eating me alive. I made the decision to expose everything. I contacted the police with the evidence of both the forged will and the murder. Linda was arrested last week. The fallout has been nuclear. Linda is in jail awaiting trial for first-degree murder and fraud. She's trying to claim the antifreeze was accidental contamination, but the evidence is overwhelming. Marcus and Sophia are indeed in temporary foster care, while the state tries to locate suitable family members. They're traumatized and confused. Rick, the business partner, is also facing charges as an accessory after the fact. I'm now the sole heir to my father's estate, as Linda obviously can't inherit as his murderer. The whole extended family is in chaos. Some blame me for destroying those innocent children's lives, while others support my decision to seek justice. Here's where I might be the asshole. I could have potentially handled this differently. I could have quietly claimed my rightful inheritance without exposing the murder, leaving Linda to deal with the consequences of her fake will without involving the police. Use the inheritance to support Marcus and Sophia privately, while still exposing Linda's fraud. Tried to gather more evidence before involving authorities to ensure the kids had a better support system in place. Instead, I went straight to the police with everything at once, which resulted in the kids losing their mother immediately with no transition period or support system. The guilt is overwhelming. Marcus has been calling me crying, begging me to fix this and bring his mom home. He doesn't understand that his mother is a murderer. He just knows that I'm the reason she's gone and their life is destroyed. Sophia hasn't spoken to anyone since the arrest and is apparently not eating well. My mother thinks I did the right thing, but wishes I'd found a way to protect the kids better. My girlfriend is supportive, but admits she's scared of me sometimes now, wondering if I'm capable of destroying anyone who crosses me. Some family members are calling me a monster for prioritizing money over children's well-being. Others are saying I'm a hero for getting justice for my father. The truth is, I don't know what I am anymore. I've been thinking about using my inheritance to set up trust funds for Marcus and Sophia, but I'm not sure if that would help or just make things worse. Would it seem like I'm trying to buy their forgiveness? Would it even be legal given that I'm the one who put their mother in prison? I'm also struggling with the fact that I essentially orphaned 2 kids. Yes, Their mother is a murderer, but she was still their mother, and they loved her. They had a stable, comfortable life, and now they have nothing. They're going to need therapy for years to process this trauma. The worst part is that I know my dad would be horrified by how this all played out. He loved Marcus and Sophia deeply, and he wouldn't want them to suffer for Linda's crimes. But he also wouldn't want his murder to go unpunished, and he specifically wanted me to inherit fairly. I keep second-guessing myself. Could I have found a way to expose Linda's fraud without revealing the murder? Could I have built a case more carefully to ensure the kids had better support? Should I have prioritized their immediate well-being over justice for my father? The prosecutor handling Linda's case says I did the right thing and that murder cases get stronger over time, not weaker, so waiting wouldn't have helped. But that doesn't make me feel better about two teenagers losing everything because of my decisions. I'm also dealing with the weird psychological impact of learning that someone actively tried to deprive me of my inheritance while murdering my father. It's messing with my head in ways I didn't expect. I find myself questioning every interaction I had with Linda over the years, wondering what else she was planning or lying about. My therapist says I'm dealing with a form of survivor's guilt and that I need to remember I didn't create this situation. Linda did. But it's hard to feel that way when I see the direct consequences of my choices affecting two innocent kids. Update. The foster care situation is temporary. The state found Linda's sister in another state who's willing to take Marcus and Sophia, but it means they'll have to change schools and leave all their friends. The sister seems nice enough, but she's not wealthy, and this is going to be a huge adjustment for kids who are used to a very comfortable lifestyle. I've decided to set up education trust funds for both kids that they can access when they turn 18, but I'm doing it anonymously through my lawyer, so they don't know it's from me. I don't want them to feel conflicted about accepting help from the person who destroyed their family, but I also can't live with myself if they don't have opportunities because of this situation. The preliminary hearing is next month. Linda's lawyer is trying to get the murder charges dropped, claiming the antifreeze was environmental contamination, but the prosecution seems confident in their case. I still don't know if I'm the asshole here. I got justice for my father and claimed my rightful inheritance, but I also destroyed two kids' lives in the process. Was there a better way to handle this? Should I have prioritized their well-being over justice? Chloe was amazingly supportive during the breakup. She brought me ice cream, listened to me cry, helped me pack up Alex's stuff, and constantly reminded me that I deserve better. She even badmouthed Alex, calling him an emotionally unavailable loser and saying she never liked him anyway. I was so grateful to have such a loyal friend during the worst time of my life. For the past 6 months, Chloe has been my rock. We've been hanging out more than ever, having girls' nights, taking weekend trips, and she's been helping me rebuild my confidence. She encouraged me to start dating again and was always asking about guys I was meeting on apps. I thought our friendship had actually grown stronger after Alex. Now here's where everything goes to hell. 3 weeks ago, I was at Chloe's apartment helping her organize her closet. She was moving to a bigger place. While sorting through her jewelry box, I found a necklace that looked exactly like one my grandmother had given me. It was a very distinctive vintage piece, Art Deco style, with a unique sapphire setting. I thought it was weird that Chloe had something so similar, so I jokingly said, "Hey, this looks just like my grandmother's necklace." Chloe got really flustered and claimed she'd bought it at an estate sale. But when I looked closer, I could see the tiny inscription on the back that my grandfather had engraved, "To my darling Rose, 1943. This was definitely my necklace. When I confronted her, she initially stuck to the estate sale story, but I pressed her on the inscription. Finally, she broke down and admitted she'd borrowed the necklace months ago when she was at my place and forgot to give it back. She said she was embarrassed to return it after so much time had passed. Aita for ruining my best friend's life after discovering she's been stealing from me and dating my ex behind my back. I, 29F, am posting this because I genuinely can't tell if I went too far or if my former best friend deserved everything that happened to her. This is going to be long and messy, but I need outside perspective because everyone in my life is picking sides. I need to start with some background about my friendship with Chloe, 28F. We've been best friends since college. Roommates, sorority sisters, each other's maids of honor, the whole thing. We were inseparable. After graduation, we both moved to the same city and lived together for 3 years before getting our own places. Chloe has always been the more outgoing one while I'm more introverted, but we balanced each other perfectly. 2 years ago, I started dating Alex, 31M, who I met through a work connection. Alex was everything I thought I wanted: successful lawyer, charming, attractive, and he seemed to genuinely care about me. Chloe was initially supportive, but I noticed she started acting weird whenever Alex was around. She'd become flirtier, louder, and would often try to monopolize conversations or make subtle digs at me in front of him. I chalked it up to jealousy. Chloe had been single for a while and going through a rough patch with work and family issues. I figured she was just feeling left out now that I had a serious boyfriend. I actually felt bad for her and tried to include her more in our plans, which in hindsight was probably the worst thing I could have done. Alex and I dated for about 18 months. The relationship had its ups and downs. He could be emotionally distant and had some anger issues, but I was convinced we were working towards something serious. Then, about 6 months ago, he suddenly broke up with me. He said he needed space to figure things out, and that he wasn't ready for the level of commitment I wanted. I was devastated. I was hurt, but willing to forgive her. We've all made mistakes, and maybe she really did just panic about returning it. But then I started thinking about other things that had gone missing from my apartment over the past year: a designer scarf my mom gave me, some expensive skincare products, a vintage brooch, and about $200 in cash I thought I'd misplaced. I decided to look through more of Chloe's stuff while she was in the bathroom. I found my missing scarf in her dresser drawer, along with the skincare products and the vintage brooch. I also found something that made my blood run cold: a framed photo of Chloe and Alex together, clearly taken recently based on Alex's new haircut. They were kissing and looked very much like a couple. When Chloe came back, I confronted her with everything. The photo, the stolen items, all of it. What came out was so much worse than I imagined. Chloe broke down completely and confessed everything. She'd been attracted to Alex from the moment she met him and had been actively trying to sabotage our relationship from the beginning. She had been having an affair with Alex for the last 8 months of our relationship. The work trips Alex claimed to be taking were actually weekends with Chloe. Alex didn't break up with me because he needed space. He broke up with me because he wanted to be with Chloe without the guilt of cheating. They've been dating openly for the past 6 months, essentially since the day after Alex and I broke up. All those times Chloe was supporting me through the breakup. She was going home to the man who had just dumped me. She'd been stealing small items from my apartment for over a year, not just recently. She said she felt entitled to nice things because I had more money than her, which isn't even true. We make similar salaries. The worst part, she admitted that she and Alex used to laugh about me together. She said Alex would share details about our relationship, our fights, and even intimate moments, and they'd mock me for being clingy and naive. I was beyond devastated. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a systematic destruction of my life by the person I trusted most. But the story doesn't end there. After Chloe's confession, I was furious and heartbroken, but I initially just wanted to cut contact and move on. I took my stolen items back, blocked both of them on everything, and tried to process what had happened. But then I found out something that pushed me over the edge. Through mutual friends, I learned that Chloe and Alex had been telling people that I was crazy and obsessed with Alex. They claimed that I'd been stalking Alex since the breakup and that I was making up stories about them to get attention. They said I was having a mental breakdown and couldn't accept that Alex had moved on. This narrative was spreading through our entire social circle. People I'd known for years were starting to treat me differently, like I was some unhinged stalker ex-girlfriend. Meanwhile, Chloe and Alex were playing the part of the happy couple who were being harassed by Alex's psycho ex. That's when I decided to go nuclear. I had screenshots of text conversations with Chloe where she talked about her affair with Alex while comforting me about her breakup. I had photos of the stolen items with timestamps. I had evidence of everything. I created a detailed post on social media with all the evidence, explaining exactly what had happened. I included the screenshots of Chloe, saying things like, "Alex says you're so predictable, and he's so much happier with me," alongside her text to me saying, "You deserve so much better than him." I also reported the theft to the police. Technically, what Chloe did was a crime, even if the individual items weren't worth much. I pressed charges. The response was immediate and nuclear. Everyone in our social circle immediately turned against Chloe and Alex. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Chloe's job found out about the theft charges. She works in banking, where any criminal charges are a big deal. She was suspended pending investigation and will likely be fired. Alex's law firm also found out. While he didn't steal anything, the affair and the way they tried to discredit me reflected poorly on his character. He's facing professional consequences, too. Chloe had to move back in with her parents because she can't make rent without her job. Their relationship imploded under the pressure. Alex apparently blamed Chloe for the whole mess and broke up with her, claiming he never wanted their relationship to be public and that she forced him into the situation. Chloe's family is horrified and has cut her off financially. They're very religious and conservative, and the combination of theft, adultery, and public humiliation was too much for them. Several of Chloe's other friendships have ended because people realized she'd been lying and manipulating for years. Essentially, Chloe's entire life has fallen apart. She's lost her job, her relationship, her family support, most of her friends, and is facing potential criminal charges. Now I'm getting messages from various people saying I went too far. Some mutual friends think I should have just cut contact instead of destroying Chloe's life. They argue that what she did was wrong, but my response was disproportionate and cruel. Chloe's sister reached out to me, begging me to drop the criminal charges and take down the social media post. She says Chloe is suicidal and that I'm killing her with my actions. She claims Chloe has learned her lesson and just needs a chance to rebuild her life. Even my own mother thinks I might have gone too far. She agrees that Chloe's actions were terrible, but she's worried that I'm letting anger and hurt drive me to be vindictive. She's concerned that I'll regret destroying someone's life, even someone who hurt me badly. But here's the thing. I don't feel like I destroyed Chloe's life. I feel like I exposed the truth about what she did to me. She's facing consequences for her own actions. The theft, the affair, the lies, and the attempt to make me look crazy. I didn't make her do any of those things. The part that really gets me is that if I hadn't found that necklace by accident, I might never have discovered any of this. Chloe and Alex would still be together, still mocking me behind my back, and I'd still be the crazy ex in everyone's story. They were perfectly happy to let me be the villain in their narrative. I also can't get over the systematic nature of the betrayal. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a single bad decision. Chloe spent months planning and executing the destruction of my relationship while pretending to be my best friend. She stole from me repeatedly, lied to my face daily, and then tried to gaslight an entire social circle into thinking I was mentally unstable. My therapist, yes, I'm seeing someone to process all this, says that my response was within normal bounds for someone who experienced such a severe betrayal. She points out that I didn't lie about anything or exaggerate. I simply told the truth with evidence to back it up. But I'm still conflicted. When I see Chloe's sister's messages about her being suicidal, I wonder if I should have been the bigger person. Maybe I could have just quietly moved on and let karma handle things naturally. Maybe exposing everything publicly was cruel, even if it was truthful. I'm also struggling with the fact that I genuinely love Chloe like a sister for years. We have so many good memories together, and it's hard to reconcile the person I thought she was with what she actually did to me. Part of me wonders if I'm mourning the loss of someone who never really existed. The criminal case is moving forward, and Chloe will likely have to plead guilty to petty theft. It won't be a serious criminal record, but it's enough to impact her career in banking. I have the power to drop the charges, but I haven't decided if I will. I've been thinking about what I want the endgame to be here. Do I want Chloe to suffer indefinitely? Do I want her to learn from this and become a better person? Do I want to just move on and forget this ever happened? Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that I feel violated in a way I didn't know was possible. Chloe didn't just betray me once. She systematically dismantled my life while pretending to care about me. She stole my belongings, my boyfriend, my sense of reality, and nearly my entire social circle. The fact that she was willing to let me be seen as mentally unstable rather than face consequences for her actions is particularly cruel. At the same time, I recognize that my response was nuclear. I could have handled this privately, could have just cut contact and moved on. Instead, I chose to make everything public and pursue legal action. I chose to ensure that Chloe faced maximum consequences for her actions. Was that justice or revenge? I honestly don't know anymore. Update: Chloe's sister contacted me again, this time saying that Chloe wants to meet to apologize in person and discuss me dropping the charges. I haven't decided if I want to see her. Part of me wants closure and a real apology, but part of me thinks it's just another manipulation attempt.
Aita for revealing my family's biggest secret at my brother's wedding and potentially ruining multiple marriages. I 35 FAM writing this with shaking hands because I still can't believe what happened at my brother's wedding last weekend. I've just destroyed my entire family over something I discovered by accident, and I don't know if I'm a hero or a monster. This is going to be a long story with multiple twists, so please bear with me. My family has always appeared perfect from the outside. My parents, Robert 62M and Susan 59F, have been married for 38 years and are pillars of our small conservative community. My dad owns a successful construction company. My mom runs a popular local bakery, and they're involved in every charity and church event in town. My brother Danny 33M just married his college sweetheart Hannah 31F in what everyone called the wedding of the year for our town. I'm the family disappointment, divorced, childless, living in the big city working. As a freelance graphic designer, I moved away at 18 and only come home for major holidays and events. My family has always made me feel like an outsider for choosing a different life path, but I've learned to deal with it. The problem started 3 months ago when my mom asked me to create a special photo slideshow for Danny's wedding reception. She wanted something elaborate with family photos going back generations, including old photos from boxes in the attic that had never been digitized. I agreed to help because, despite our differences, I love my family. Mom shipped me boxes of old photographs, documents, and memorabilia. I spent weeks scanning everything and organizing it chronologically. Most of it was typical family stuff: baby photos, vacations, graduations, etc. But then I found something that changed everything. Hidden in the back of one of the photo albums was an old envelope containing what appeared to be legal documents from 1987. Being nosy, I opened it. Inside were DNA test results, the old-fashioned kind from before home DNA kits existed. The documents showed that Danny is not my father's biological son. At first I thought it might be a mistake, or maybe documents that belonged to someone else, but as I read more carefully, it was definitely about Danny. The test had been ordered by my father and conducted when Danny was about 2 years old. I was stunned. Danny looks exactly like my dad, same eyes, same build, same mannerisms. If anyone was going to be the fake kid, I would have guessed it would be me, since I've always been the odd one out. I kept digging through the papers and found something even more shocking: a private investigator's report from 1988. My father had hired someone to investigate my mother's affair. According to the report, my mother had been having an affair with Father Michael, now 63M, the priest at our family's church, starting in 1984. The affair lasted about 2 years, and Danny was conceived during this time. The pie had photos, witness statements, hotel receipts, everything. But here's where it gets really twisted. Father Michael is still the priest at our church. He baptized Danny, officiated at my wedding, and later my divorce, and was scheduled to perform Danny and Hannah's wedding ceremony. He has been a family friend for over 30 years, coming to holiday dinners and being treated like an uncle. Danny's biological father was going to officiate his wedding, and nobody knew except my parents. I spent weeks agonizing over what to do with this information. Part of me wanted to pretend I never saw it. My parents had clearly worked through whatever happened in their marriage, and Danny was happy and about to get married. Why destroy everyone's life over something that happened 30 years ago? But I couldn't stop thinking about the lies. Every family dinner where Father Michael was present, every time Danny talked about how proud he was to have my dad's work ethic, every time my parents acted like the perfect Christian couple, all felt like a massive deception. I also couldn't shake the feeling that Danny had a right to know. What if he and Hannah wanted to have kids? What if there were genetic medical issues he should know about? What if Father Michael had other children he didn't know about? I decided to approach my parents privately before the wedding. I called my mom and told her I'd found some old documents and needed to talk to both her and Dad. I drove home weeks before the wedding. The conversation was brutal. When I showed them the documents, my mother immediately broke down crying. My father went completely silent for about 10 minutes, then exploded in anger, not at my mother, but at me for digging up the past. The truth was even messier than the documents suggested. My mother's affair with Father Michael lasted 3 years, not 2. My father knew about Danny's paternity from the beginning, but chose to raise him as his own. Father Michael knew Danny was his son but agreed to stay silent to protect his career and my parents' marriage. My parents had been in marriage counseling with another priest, ironic, right, for years and had worked through the affair. They'd agreed to never tell Danny because they felt it would destroy him and serve no purpose. My mother begged me not to say anything, especially not at the wedding. She said it would ruin Danny's happiness and destroy multiple families. Father Michael has a sister with kids who don't know about his past. My father was less diplomatic. He told me that if I said anything, I would be dead to the family forever. He said some unforgivable things about how I'd always been jealous of Danny and was looking for a way to hurt him. I promised I wouldn't say anything at the wedding, but I also told them that I thought Danny deserved to know the truth, eventually, and that living with this secret was eating me alive. The wedding day arrived, and everything was beautiful. Danny looked so happy. Hannah was radiant, and Father Michael performed a lovely ceremony talking about love, honesty, and the sanctity of marriage. I was sitting there watching Danny's biological father lecture him about marital fidelity, while my parents sat in the front row pretending everything was normal. During the reception, I was supposed to give a maid of honor speech. I wasn't actually maid of honor, but Danny had asked me to speak since we'd been close as kids. I had prepared a nice, safe speech about childhood memories and wishing them happiness. But when I got up to the microphone and saw Father Michael sitting at the head table like an honored guest, something snapped in me. I started with my prepared speech, but then I deviated. I said something like, you know, families are complicated, and sometimes the people we love keep secrets they think will protect us. But I believe Danny deserves to know the whole truth about his family before he starts his own. Then I told everyone about the DNA test and the affair. The reaction was immediate chaos. Hannah started crying and ran out. Danny confronted my parents and Father Michael right there in front of 200 guests. Father Michael tried to deny it at first, but my father stood up and confirmed everything. The wedding reception essentially ended. Half the guests left immediately. Hannah's family was furious, and Danny was screaming at everyone, me, my parents, and Father Michael. But the fallout didn't stop there. Hannah called off their honeymoon and is now staying with her parents, saying she needs time to process that her new husband's entire family had been lying to her. Father Michael was suspended from the church, pending an investigation. Apparently, the Catholic Church takes vows of celibacy seriously, even for affairs that happened decades ago. My parents' marriage is now in crisis. My father is furious that the secret is out, and my mother is devastated that their carefully constructed life has exploded. Danny is having an identity crisis. He's angry at everyone and doesn't know what to believe about his childhood or his relationship with my dad. The church community is in an uproar. Father Michael was beloved, and now there are questions about other potential affairs or children. My extended family has completely turned against me. I'm being blamed for ruining Danny's wedding and destroying the family. But here's the twist that makes me question everything. 3 days after the wedding, I got a call from a woman named Patricia, 54F. She saw the news coverage of the church scandal. Yes, it made the local news and reached out because she'd been looking for her half-brother for years. Patricia is Father Michael's daughter from another affair he had. In the 1970s, she's been trying to connect with potential siblings through DNA testing and genealogy research. When she saw Danny's name in the news articles, she realized he might be her half-brother. It turns out Father Michael has been having affairs for decades and potentially has multiple children he's never acknowledged. Patricia has been in contact with 2 other potential half-siblings, and they've been trying to expose him for years but never had enough evidence. So my revelation at the wedding didn't just expose one affair, it opened the door to exposing what appears to be a pattern of abuse by a trusted religious figure. Patricia thanked me for speaking up because it finally gave them the opening they needed to hold Father Michael accountable. She said they're now working with church authorities and potentially law enforcement to investigate his conduct over the past 40 years. This information has made me feel somewhat vindicated in my decision, but it doesn't erase the immediate damage I caused to my family. The current situation is, Danny and Hannah are in marriage counseling, trying to decide if their marriage can survive this revelation and the associated family drama. My parents are also in counseling and considering divorce. My father feels betrayed all over again, and my mother is angry that I destroyed their redemption story. Father Michael has been defrocked and is facing potential criminal charges if any of his affairs involved minors or if there's evidence of other illegal conduct. I'm completely estranged from my family. My parents won't speak to me. Danny blames me for ruining his wedding, and most of our extended family thinks I'm a vindictive monster. The church community is divided between people who think I exposed necessary truth and people who think I destroyed a good man's reputation with old gossip. I'm seeing a therapist to deal with the guilt and isolation. but I'm struggling with whether I did the right thing. On one hand, I exposed the truth about a pattern of abuse by a religious authority figure, and Danny deserved to know his real paternity for medical and personal reasons. On the other hand, I chose the most destructive possible moment to reveal this information. I could have told Danny privately before the wedding, or I could have worked with Patricia and the other potential siblings to build a case against Father Michael without involving my family's personal business. Instead, I chose to blow up everything at once, in the most public, humiliating way possible. My therapist says I was processing my own trauma from growing up in a family built on lies, and that my reaction was understandable even if it wasn't ideal. But understanding my motivations doesn't undo the damage. Danny's wedding day is ruined forever. Even if he and Hannah work things out, their wedding will always be remembered as the day their family imploded. Hannah didn't deserve to be traumatized on what should have been the happiest day of her life. My parents, whatever their flaws, had apparently worked through their marital problems and were genuinely happy. Now their marriage might end, because I couldn't let the past stay buried. And while Father Michael deserved to face consequences for his actions, I don't know if I had the right to make that decision for the entire community. The most heartbreaking part is that Danny and I were genuinely close as kids, and now he hates me. He says I stole his wedding day and his family identity because I was jealous of his happiness. Maybe he's right. Maybe I've always resented being the black sheep of the family, and this was my chance to prove that even the golden child wasn't really legitimate. I keep going back and forth between feeling like I did the right thing and feeling like I'm a selfish monster who destroyed multiple lives to satisfy my own need to expose the truth. The practical consequences are still unfolding. The church is dealing with a major scandal. Multiple families are in crisis, and there's potential legal action involving other victims of Father Michael's conduct. But the personal consequences are what keep me up at night. I may have lost my family forever, and I'm not sure if it was worth it. Update: Danny called me yesterday for the first time since the wedding. He and Hannah are staying together, but they've decided to elope and have a small private ceremony with just a few friends. He said he understands why I felt I had to tell the truth, but he'll never forgive me for how I did it. He asked me not to contact him again. Father Michael has been arrested on charges related to financial impropriety at the church. Apparently the affairs were just the tip of the iceberg. Patricia and the other siblings are relieved that he's finally facing consequences, but I still feel guilty about the collateral damage to my family. I discovered that my brother is actually the biological son of our family priest, who officiated his wedding. I revealed this secret during my speech at the wedding reception, destroying the ceremony, multiple marriages, and my relationship with my entire family, but it also exposed a serial predator, priest, who had multiple affairs and children. I don't know if I'm a whistleblower or a family destroyer. Aita for exposing my roommate's fake illness and destroying her relationship with her wealthy boyfriend. I-27 FAM posting this because I'm genuinely torn about whether I did the right thing or if I've become a vindictive person who destroyed someone's life out of jealousy. This situation has completely consumed my thoughts for weeks. Let me start with some background. My roommate, Vanessa 25F, and I have been living together for 2 years in a nice apartment in downtown Seattle. We met through a roommate finding app and initially got along great. She's bubbly, outgoing, and seemed like the perfect roommate, clean, responsible with bills, and fun to be around. About 18 months ago, Vanessa started dating Marcus 34M, who she met at a charity gala. Marcus is, well, he's incredibly wealthy. His family owns a chain of luxury hotels, and he works in private equity. We're talking multiple homes, a yacht, designer, everything kind of wealthy. I'm not going to lie, I was initially a bit jealous of Vanessa's luck in landing such a catch, but I was also happy for her. Marcus seemed genuinely smitten with Vanessa. He'd send flowers constantly, take her on expensive trips, and was always buying her jewelry and designer clothes. He's also a really good guy, polite, generous, and he'd often invite me to join them for dinners or events so I wouldn't feel left out. I actually started to see him as a friend. About a year ago, Vanessa started having health issues. It started small. She'd mentioned feeling tired or having headaches. But over the months, her symptoms escalated dramatically. She claimed to be having severe fatigue, joint pain, digestive issues, and cognitive problems. She started seeing multiple specialists and going for countless tests. Marcus was incredibly supportive throughout all of this. He'd drive her to appointments, research her symptoms online, and was constantly worried about her health. He even hired a private chef to make special meals that might help with her digestive issues and converted one of his guest rooms into a recovery space for her with an expensive air purification system. As Vanessa's condition worsened, she quit her job as a marketing coordinator, saying she couldn't handle the stress. Marcus immediately offered to support her financially, paying for her portion of our rent, her medical bills, and giving her a generous monthly allowance. He also started working remotely more often so he could take care of her. I watched this relationship evolve, and honestly felt conflicted. On one hand, Marcus was being an amazing, supportive partner. On the other hand, I was living with Vanessa daily, and some things weren't adding up. The first red flag was that Vanessa's symptoms seemed to come and go very conveniently. She'd be bedridden with fatigue when Marcus was around, but I'd see her doing yoga in the living room or going for runs when he wasn't there. When I asked her about it, she said she was having good days and bad days, which seemed reasonable. The second red flag was her social media activity. She'd post about her health journey and how grateful she was for Marcus's support, but then I'd see her tagged at bars and parties with other friends on days when she'd told Marcus she was too sick to leave the apartment. The third red flag was the medical appointments. Vanessa claimed to be seeing multiple specialists, but I noticed she was always home much earlier than she should have been if she'd actually gone to these appointments. When I casually asked about her doctors, she'd get vague and change the subject, but the biggest red flag came about 6 months ago. I came home early from work one day and found Vanessa on the phone with someone, saying things like, "Yes, I need to reschedule the blood work, and can you make sure the results show elevated inflammatory markers again?" When she saw me, she quickly hung up and claimed it was her doctor's office. But something felt very off about the conversation. I started paying more attention after that. I noticed that Vanessa's medical bills that Marcus was paying were often for things like spa treatments, massage therapy, and alternative wellness services that weren't actually medical. She'd frame them as treatments for her condition, but they were clearly just luxury services. I also noticed that she'd been researching chronic illnesses online constantly, almost like she was studying for a test. Her browser history we share. A computer sometimes was full of searches for symptoms of various autoimmune conditions and forums about chronic fatigue syndrome. The situation escalated about 3 months ago when Vanessa had what she called a major flu. She claimed she was in severe pain and couldn't get out of bed. Marcus immediately flew back from a business trip, hired a private nurse, and was considering taking her to the Mayo Clinic for specialized treatment. I watched Marcus panic about potentially losing the love of his life while Vanessa milked every moment of his attention and concern. It was heartbreaking to see someone I'd grown to care about being manipulated so thoroughly. That's when I decided to investigate further. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I felt like I needed proof before I could say anything to Marcus. I started documenting Vanessa's behavior when Marcus wasn't around. I took photos of her going for runs on days she claimed to be bedridden. I screenshot her social media check-ins at restaurants and bars when she'd told Marcus she was too sick to eat solid food. I even followed her to one of her medical appointments and discovered she was actually getting a massage at an expensive spa. But the smoking gun came when I found Vanessa's medical file that she'd accidentally left open on our shared computer. It wasn't a real medical file, it was a Word document where she'd been tracking her fake symptoms and the stories she'd told Marcus about various appointments and test results. The document was incredibly detailed. She had notes like told him that inflammation markers were high, need to seem more tired this week, and remember to limp when getting out of bed tomorrow. She'd even researched the side effects of medications she wasn't taking so she could fake those symptoms too. Most disturbing of all, she had financial calculations at the bottom of the document. She'd been tracking how much money Marcus was spending on her care and had projections for future treatments she planned to need. She was literally budgeting her fake illness for maximum financial benefit. I was horrified but still wasn't sure what to do. Part of me thought I should confront Vanessa directly and give her a chance to come clean to Marcus herself. But I was also worried she'd just get better at hiding her deception or find a way to turn the situation around on me. The decision was made for me when Marcus confided in me that he was planning to propose to Vanessa. He said he wanted to take care of her for the rest of her life and was looking into the best medical facilities in the world where they could move to manage her condition. He was literally planning to restructure his entire life around her fake illness. That's when I knew I had to act. I couldn't let Marcus marry someone who was so thoroughly deceiving him, especially about something as serious as a chronic illness. So I compiled all my evidence, the photos, screenshots, and the document I'd found, and asked Marcus to meet me for coffee. The conversation was brutal. Marcus initially didn't believe me and accused me of being jealous of their relationship. But when I showed him the evidence, especially Vanessa's detailed fake medical file, he couldn't deny it anymore. Marcus confronted Vanessa that same evening. I wasn't there for the confrontation, but I could hear yelling from my room. Vanessa tried to deny everything at first, then claimed she'd been exaggerating her symptoms because she was afraid Marcus would leave her if she wasn't interesting enough. When that didn't work, she accused me of fabricating everything because I was in love with Marcus myself. Marcus didn't buy any of her explanations. He told her she had 1 week to move out and that he was done with the relationship. He also demanded she pay back some of the money he'd spent on her fake treatments, though I doubt she has the means to do that. The fallout has been intense. Vanessa moved out within 3 days, not 1 week. She's been staying with various friends, but apparently burning through those relationships quickly because people are finding out what she did. Marcus is devastated. He's not just heartbroken about the relationship ending, he's questioning his judgment and having trust issues. He's been seeing a therapist to process being manipulated so thoroughly. Word has spread through their social circle about what Vanessa did. She's essentially been blacklisted from the charity and social events where they met, and her reputation is completely destroyed. Vanessa has been sending me increasingly desperate and angry messages. She blames me for ruining her life and claims that Marcus would have been happy even if he'd known the truth. She says I destroyed her chance at real love because of jealousy. She's also been trying to spread rumors about me, claiming I was the one manipulating Marcus and that I made everything up to steal him from her. Most people don't believe her because the evidence was so overwhelming, but it's still uncomfortable. Marcus and I have remained friends, but some people are speculating that I exposed Vanessa because I wanted Marcus for myself. That's not true. I care about Marcus as a friend, but I'm not romantically interested in him and never have been. Now I'm second-guessing everything. Did I do the right thing by exposing Vanessa's deception, or did I go too far by investigating and documenting her behavior? Should I have confronted her directly instead of going to Marcus? Was my motivation, really, about protecting Marcus, or was I subconsciously jealous of their relationship? Some friends think I'm a hero for protecting Marcus from a manipulative gold digger. Others think I was vindictive and should have minded my own business. My family is divided. My mom thinks I did the right thing, but my sister thinks I was motivated by jealousy and went too far. The part that makes me feel worst is that Vanessa's life has been completely destroyed. She lost her wealthy boyfriend, her social circle, her reputation, and her housing situation all at once. She's basically had to start over from scratch. And people in our city know what she did, so she might even have to move somewhere new. I keep wondering if there was a middle ground. Maybe I could have confronted Vanessa privately and given her an ultimatum to tell Marcus the truth, or I would. Maybe I could have found a way to expose her deception without completely destroying her life. But then I think about how Marcus was planning to propose and potentially spend the rest of his life caring for someone with a fake illness. I think about how much money he was spending and how he was restructuring his life around a lie. I think about how Vanessa was planning to continue this deception indefinitely, potentially for years or decades. The thing that really bothers me is that Vanessa showed no remorse when she was caught. Even in her messages to me, she's not apologizing for deceiving Marcus. She's angry at me for exposing her. She still seems to think she was entitled to Marcus's money and care, even through deception. I'm also struggling with the fact that I invaded Vanessa's privacy to gather evidence against her. I followed her, went through her documents, and documented her behavior without her knowledge. Even if my motivations were good, those actions feel ethically questionable. Marcus has thanked me multiple times for telling him the truth, and he says he's grateful that he found out before proposing. But he's also dealing with serious trust issues now, and has said he doesn't know if he'll ever be able to date again without wondering if someone is deceiving him. The whole situation has made me question my own motivations and judgment. Am I someone who protects people from being taken advantage of, or am I someone who destroys lives when I don't like what I see? The line between those two things feels very thin right now. Update: Vanessa contacted Marcus last week, claiming she's been diagnosed with a real illness now and asking for his help with medical bills. Marcus forwarded me the message asking if I thought it was another scam. The timing seems very suspicious, but I told him it's not my place to investigate his ex anymore. He decided not to respond to her. Also, I've been seeing a therapist myself to process my role in all this. She's helping me understand the difference between protecting someone from harm and taking justice into my own hands. It's been helpful, but I still don't have clear answers about whether I did the right thing. TLDR: I discovered my roommate was faking a chronic illness to manipulate her wealthy boyfriend into supporting her financially and emotionally. I gathered evidence and exposed her deception, which ended their relationship and destroyed her life. Now, I'm questioning whether I was protecting him or just being vindictive.